Hey Simmers, and welcome back to another chapter of Let's Build a Story. You guys, we have finished Foundry Cove. You guys will have already seen that last episode of it. I hope you guys enjoyed your starter home. We are moving on to Courtyard Lane. The description reads, Courtyard Lane offers affordable homes for the upwardly mobile set. Classic styling mingles with larger shotguns and more expansive homes. So, this is a very neighborhoody kind of thing. We have not a lot of community lots in here that I'm seeing. This is all going to be residential homes. I have 4 families to introduce you guys to, and I'm so excited to introduce you to each and every one, but we're going to start with a very familiar couple. Welcome to Peak Hearth. This is a 20 by 30 lot that is home to Bob and Eliza Pancakes. This is, I think, the Sims team's stab at probably a more suburban style with a little bit of New Orleans flair. I think that they achieved that largely. There are some things that I would definitely do different. Whereas quite a few homes I'm bulldozing, not this one. This is far too... I don't know, it's too iconic. We all know this as Bob and Eliza's home. You guys, I need to introduce you to the romantically challenged couple themselves. I have reimagined them a little bit. So, not too much. Very first, we'll start with Mr. Bob. So what is there to say about Bob Pancakes? I left him fairly untouched. He's our iconic Bob Pancakes, our depressed young man himself. He does have the gloomy trait, the loner trait, and I believe the slob trait, if I'm not mistaken. I will correct myself in editing if I am wrong. Bob is going through some stuff, okay? And then we have his lovely wife, Eliza. Listen, I know what you're thinking. She's kind of the neighborhood busybody. She always shows up trying to hang out with your Sims. She's very, very unhappy, I think, in her relationship with Bob. Bob and she just are sort of oil and water right now. We all know this, right? But why? Why are they like this? Eliza has the materialistic, neat, and perfectionist traits, so she's pretty much polar opposite of her husband. And to be honest, I think that has to do with their backgrounds. I think that Eliza comes from the upper crust. Probably her family was very successful, and she, to be honest, in their eyes, married down when she married Bob. I imagine that they would have met in college, and they met one another when they were just starting university. They were, they had a ton of ideas about what they were going to accomplish, who they were going to be. I think that was very exciting for Eliza. I think that was a breath of fresh air for Bob. I think Bob comes from very salt of the earth kind of people. I think that their backgrounds were not quite complementary, but they had a big passion for each other, and so they married, and were probably 2-ish years into their marriage, maybe 3, and the luster has worn off, right? The humdrum of life has picked up. Bob's plans hadn't gone the way he quite hoped. Eliza's seeing maybe her husband has less ambition than she had hoped that she did, and she's having to carry the brunt of the financial burden, which is fine. That was just not the plan. Now, I do think that they are trying, so they're still in a crossroads in my interpretation for them. I think that Eliza has talked with Bob about dealing with his gloominess, and I think the suggestion was made that maybe he were to get an emotional support pet, which brings us to this little guy. This is Blueberry Pancakes. He is a lazy cat. He is a glutton. He loves his food. And he is an affectionate cat. So he is going to be right on Bob when he needs him, when he has those really bad days. But he loves food. As we all know, Bob has the aspiration to become a chef, whereas Eliza just wants to live in a big mansion. So let's get into build mode, and we'll talk a little bit more about their story as I renovate this build. All right, so I'm really not changing much about the exterior walls. So I'm leaving pretty much the shell alone. Now, What I will do though is I'm gonna change this wallpaper out here. Very first, I would like to just see this siding here. Ooh, do you see this siding here? How it'll kind of box in some, but it depends on what your rooms are situated like, and I've never really liked that. So the siding that I'm looking for is actually base game siding, I believe. Yes, okay, so it's this one. Now they have this sort of like taupey gray kind of siding, and I don't think that that's terrible. I think that it's a good blank, but honestly I think that there are better that they could have used. I think I would actually like to go blue. We're gonna give them a classic blue Suburban. They have about 22,000 to start with. I'm gonna try to work within their budget. This is not going to be a pack restricted build, base game build, but we are in Willow Creek, so I am going to be using the packs that I've been using for exteriors. So we're going to be doing base game, we're going to be doing the paranormal pack. Cats and dogs is a really good one. Parenthood really gets us through quite a bit. So just anything that I can to bring home like the family home vibes, right? Now this isn't fresh and bright and new. This is a household that, to be honest, I think Bob's parents helped them buy. This may have even been Bob's home growing up, but I think at least it was a home that they had help buying. I love these planks. I just don't want it in a gray. Although, you know what? We might keep it gray. This is it's hard to see, but it's got a little bit of a brown tint to it, and I don't want that. So I'm wondering if that's too stark white. I think it might be. We could go gray. Gray, I think, would be an awesome idea here. I'm also going to be, yes, there we go. So I'm just gonna put gray all over the outside porches, everything like that. Just wanna make sure that it's nice. It still doesn't have to look the best, right? But it's I think a little bit more pulled together. We also need to switch out these chairs. I am going to be doing, I think we only have white. I believe we only have white. I might be able to forgive the porch and the stairs being a different color. What we are going to do is take away that fencing. You guys saw when I switched it how the fencing came up. It's because the game hides it, but it's still there. It's still costing you simoleons. And the changes that I'm going to make, some of them are quite expensive. So I'm going to need all the simoleons that I can, and I'm going to try my best to work within their budget. These are also incredibly expensive stairs. I think we can swap them out. Like, I know that this is a nicer area of Willow Creek, of New Willow Creek is what I will be referring it to, or what I will be referring to it as. Like, this is probably middle class, lower middle class. We're not that far ahead, although this is definitely more expansive homes. These are bigger lots. So we get to experience some of that. Oh, look at that. We're going to get rid of that fencing. Perfect. So what I think I'm going to do, I have, of course, pre-done this build beforehand because, listen, I need some practice. We're really not changing much of the outside today, so I'm kind of happy with that. I think I'm even going to leave the foundation the same. I have thought long and hard about whether to change this mailbox. Truth be told, I really don't like it, but it is called the Willow Creek mailbox, and I do think that if any sim is going to have this, it has to be Bob and Eliza Pancakes, because they're just quintessentially Willow Creek. That's the way that it is. Now, I do quite like this bench. I am going to be moving that, but I'm also going to be giving them another bench. So I think Bob and Eliza needed Bob's parents' help to purchase this house, and I think Bob and Eliza's parents were happy to help them do that because they were really excited for kiddos. They were excited for grandkids. I think they were looking forward to it. I think that Bob and Eliza's parents, like as separate entities, were independently very wary of their children getting married to each other. I think this bird bath is cute. It can stay. I like it as a front porch ornament. I think we are going to grab some outdoor furniture. Oh my gosh, I just recently got this cute little pool set. That's adorable. You know, when I did this, we didn't really have a pool set out, and I wonder if we might do a pool in one of these builds, but probably not Bob and Eliza's. But anywho, I think Bob's parents were thrilled that Bob met a girl like Eliza in college. I think that they were super happy, very proud of their son for attracting a girl like her that had some, that had ambitions, that had things that she wanted to do and accomplish and wanted to do them without the assistance of her parents. I think that they respect that quite a bit. But I think that they were very honest with themselves about what their son may or may not have been struggling with. Well, absolutely was struggling with. This was not news to them. They had helped Bob through so many different difficult times in his life. That depression monster is horrible. It's terrible. And they've watched their son struggle. I won't get too much into their stories before we go over to them, because we will be seeing them later in the save file. We may be seeing them even in this neighborhood. So keep a looks out for that. But they've watched their son struggle with this. I won't give too much away about their story before we get down to the nitty gritty of them, seeing them specifically. But I think that Bob's parents had very different views about how you deal with things like gloominess, like having a trait like a loner trait, than maybe we would think of today. Yes, okay, I think I like that. Now this privacy wall, not that that isn't super cute and all, but could we make this a little bit better by having it white? I think we can. I absolutely think we can. So we're just giving this place a little bit of a facelift. Most of the change is not going to be in the exterior of the build. Most of it's going to be on the interior, and it is an almost completely different floor plan, especially upstairs, because I have a little bit of a different story to tell. And as far as Eliza's family goes, I won't give away their story either, but they were not happy. They were not happy Sims when their daughter brought home ambitionless. Well, they saw that he was ambitionless Bob. I don't think that they felt like he was good enough for her. I think that they were sort of rooting against them. And so, I love the scalloped edges along this. I think it's just so cute. I think it looks very Victorian. So I'm going to be doing this all over. Oh, love cats and dogs for that. Although it's a very subtle difference, but I think I might like the gray a little bit better than the stark white, No, I was wrong. Stark white it is. Absolutely. They just, they've given this place a little bit of fresh coat of paint, since they've owned it. Maybe they even did something like that. No, we're fine. We're good. So I think that from the get-go, the parents were not thrilled with, they were thrilled that both kids were wanting to get married, but maybe just not to each other. I think they had some trepidations about it. I think that they or at least Bob's parents liked Eliza just fine. They just worried about their compatibility, and they worried about whether they could stick it out, to be honest. In this area, let's do the floor tiles. Yes. I do think that this blue would be a really nice touch. In the front porch area, I might even do it in this camera, my goodness. In the back porch area, yes. I find myself consistently forgetting about the ceiling tiles. Who else in the comments, raise your hand, does that after we were kicking and screaming as a community that we wanted ceiling tiles? I 90% of the time forget about them in my builds because I play with the walls down, to be very honest with you. Okay, so I'm liking the outside kind of refresh very much. Now, I think we're going to decorate this front porch area. I want white for this. You know what? Let's get them some wind chimes. I think that that's so cute. We'll get that moving. Oh, see, look, they're little differences. They're tiny differences, but I like them so much better. So let's go on out to the backyard. I don't even think that I'm doing too much difference with the landscape. I do want to take these bushes out so that they have a more natural walking path. I think the trees are great. They're a good touch. It also gives the backyard somewhere more to grow and go to. The only thing else that I'm really going to change is I think we're going to be putting hedges around everywhere, really, just to completely encase the build. We'll put some flowers in around too. But yeah, I think that Bob and Eliza met in college. I think that Eliza has probably a business degree if I had to guess. Ooh, actually, guys, we're going rogue. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to move pretty much everything back or out some. We'll go ahead and get, I don't love these bushes. I'm going to be honest with you. So I think that they met in college. Eliza, I believe, went to school for business. I think that they went to Rochester University, both of them. Eliza probably has a very long history with her family in Rochester. I think that her family was very well to do. They lived in the mansions of New Willow Creek. I won't spoil too awful much, but her family is very used to rubbing shoulders with the high and mighties, right? Her family was the high and mighties. I think that in their circles of society, you probably needed someone like the Goths. I think that they were like aware of each other, if not friends. They were acquaintances. Oh, I like that a lot. Okay. So we're just sort of better utilizing, I think, the space that we already have. And now I think we can probably end with some of those tacky bushes. So it's not exactly a fence here, but it is a barrier. We'll get some of these flowers pushed back. I think that Eliza probably went in for business because I think Eliza's family is, while very powerful, were just awful Sims. They were terrible Sims, and Eliza does not endorse literally anything that they believe. I think that they're probably part of the older upper crust of New Willow Creek. They were part of probably the Southern gentry and everything that kind of goes along with that. I think that Eliza's family goes a ways back in Willow Creek's history, and it's maybe not the most proud heritage, if you catch my drift, and where her family has raised her to be very callous about it. I don't think that worked with Eliza, and she went through in college this time of real awakening. I don't think it ever sat well with her, but she came to this realization that, hey, I'm an adult and I don't have to think the things that my parents want me to think, and I don't have to do the things that my parents want me to do. I can just be my own person. And yes, I'm going to be giving up a lot of security. I'm going to be giving up a lot of, the niceties of growing up this way. Like, I don't think Eliza would have really ever had to work a day in her life if she didn't want to. I think that her family was like that set. So long as she just towed the line and protected the family, I think that was probably a price that was too steep for her. And good for her, honestly, being her own woman. But she was going to prove her parents wrong. She was going to make it without mommy and daddy. She was going to show them that the way that they viewed things was backwards, and that anyone successful does not have to think the way that they do. And she saw this young guy in college that caught her eye, and he was so handsome, and he had this really relaxed way about him. Like when she told him about all the things that she had to do that day, I think that he had a lot of questions for her about like, but why do you have to do that? Like, why do you have to accomplish those things? What do you lose if you don't? And I think that that was a really refreshing mindset for her, because she had done so much thinking about, what the neighbors would think and what this prominent person in society would think, and about how that might limit options for her. So I think that felt really, really good. I think that was one of the things that she loved about Bob, was that he just was so unfussed, or came off as very unfussed about anyone else's opinion about what he should be doing. Little did she know, he cares very, very much. That just wasn't something he was showing her at that time. There was the Sim that he aspired to be was someone that didn't care. She thought that he was very brave and very forthcoming, and it came off as very chivalrous to her, especially when her family insisted that she bring him over. And he said, no, we don't have to. If they make you uncomfortable, we don't have to go. And you can tell them it's my fault. We don't ever have to hang out with them anyway. What are we losing? I think he had these ideas that he wanted to open his own restaurant, and she thought, oh my gosh, this is great. Like, the first little bit is going to be hard, but I've tasted his cooking. He is an amazing cook. There is no way that he isn't going to charm this city with his beignets. We'll make our own success. We'll make our own names in the world. I don't need my parents. And so she ran her mouth, and she got cut off. Actually, there was an ultimatum made that if she wanted the rest of her college paid for, that she would stop this nonsense right now, and that she would settle down into the young lady that they expected her to be, or she could have fun trying to figure it out. And I think that she was like, cool, that's great. I would rather just figure it out. And then Bob's gloominess came up, and he had episodes, and it just knocked him on his butt. And here we are 3 years later, no closer to opening a restaurant. She was getting a job in business as something to just sort of keep them afloat while he was getting the restaurant ready. And then he just really hasn't done much for it. And she risked a lot. I think she risked a lot for him. And she doesn't want to be a jerk, but she's so annoyed. It's not that she necessarily misses her terrible judgmental family, but she misses the comforts that she gave up. And Bob didn't grow up that way. Bob, it wasn't a sacrifice for him to struggle as much, because he grew up sort of struggling with his parents struggling. His parents did a great job providing for him, but they had normal jobs, right? They had normal incomes. They had to scrimp and save for everything. So Bob was, honestly, catching a lady like Eliza was probably better than he thought he would ever do in his life. So she's kind of the pinnacle for him. And I think that Eliza was really excited to accomplish new things together. And Bob feels like he's accomplished a lot already. And I don't think that that's the marriage that she signed up for. And I think Bob is well aware that his wife is feeling very jilted, very taken for granted, that her sacrifice isn't appreciated. But I think he is terrified of failure. I get that impression from Bob, that he has all of these really great ideas, especially around cooking, because he does have a genuine talent for it, but that he's scared. He is scared to take that big of a financial risk. He knows that most restaurants don't make it past their first 2 years. He knows that they usually close their doors. I don't think that he could handle being the reason that they struggled worse than his parents did. I think it's led them to where they're at now. No one is talking because everyone is, well, Bob is terrified of what he might hear, and Eliza is feeling very abandoned and disregarded completely and is not happy about it. Absolutely not happy about it, and has told him that either he deals with his gloominess and maybe some of his intimidation with starting things, and that, hey, I'm okay struggling as long as you're trying. Like, I'm excited to start this life with you, but I'm not excited to sit here and do nothing. I think that Eliza being a materialistic sim is her really appreciating when someone goes through effort on her behalf, and it producing something for her to like have and hold and prove that, like, no, this sim really tried their best for me. I think Bob would love to be her knight in shining armor if it wasn't for all the risk, and I think that Eliza knows that and feels like anything that he would get her if he's not taking that sort of risk, that gallant risk for her that she was raised as a Southern gentleman will do, is just kind of flimsy and awful and cheap. And I think that Bob feels every bit of that, to be honest with you. So they've got this little house that his parents helped them purchase that she was very impressed with in the beginning, and now is just sort of a symbol of her settling and him trying to convince her to settle, and that she has tried her best to make a good situation of, but she's just genuinely not happy with it. I think that other Sims look at what she has and then accuse her of being ungrateful. I think they accuse her of being greedy. I think they accuse her of picking on Bob. I think she's sick and tired of hearing poor Bob, because nobody else sat there and listened to him promise her and listened to all the dreaming that they did and the life that they were going to build together, and then had him deliver and not even try on all of it. Like, he's a dishwasher. He does work, but he's a dishwasher at somebody else's restaurant. This isn't him trying to wait until he's making, getting things set up. This is him stalling, and she knows that, and she's so resentful. And I think that Bob is wondering, honestly, because he knows how she feels, why she's sticking around. And I wonder if he's counting on her to cheat. I think that they have a lot of trust issues that have nothing to do with necessarily anyone's infidelity, but that, they're so worried, or Bob is very worried about what Eliza might do, because he knows that his wife is a driven sim. He knows that eventually she wants to start a family. He's very afraid of doing that as well, because that's another financial risk that he's not sure he can measure up to. He's a dishwasher, right? And while there's not a whole lot of money in being a dishwasher, there is security in it, and not a lot of the responsibility of the restaurant is on him. I think all this landscaping here is Eliza's doing. I think that she tells Bob to get on out there and mow. I think that it's Eliza's money that really pays for this landscaping. And, neither she or Bob have a problem with a woman working or making more. I think for Eliza, it is all about effort. I think that she feels so slighted that he just won't put in, as far as she can tell, as much work and passion as she's going to, or as she wants to. She doesn't see that he feels like this marriage or her is worth the effort and the risk. And I think that really stinks for her. I think that she really, she feels duped. I think that if we're honest, we all might feel that way a little bit. So while I don't think that Eliza is like a victim in this, I think that she definitely romanticized Bob. I think she was definitely swept up in the big fluff you to her parents that marrying Bob would have been. Someone who is not, in their financial like, who isn't their financial equal. He didn't have the resources that her and her family did. I think that was attractive to her. I think that was something that she really did feel like she was going to prove to them that they were wrong, and now it's sounding a lot like they were right, and I think that's even more insulting to her. So I think there's a lot of resentment and stuff that they have to work through. I think that Eliza feels like the first step is Bob's gloominess, getting a handle on that, which is what she feels is, which is how she's framing it, to fix it. And I think poor little Blueberry has a big old job to do. So, guys, we are done with the outside of this build. I'm excited to get into the rest of this household, to get into the interior. Do come back next week. We are going to be really delving in to the interior of this build, telling the story a little bit more of where everybody is. Are they sharing a bedroom? Are they in separate rooms? What are we thinking? How are Bob and Eliza regarded by you in your game? What do you feel like their story is? I know some of you have put a ton of thought into this. I would be very, very interested to hear. Guys, give a like, give a comment for the algorithm. I very much appreciate you. I will see you in the next one. As always, happy simming.